Blair Hagkull, you're Managing Director of Jones Lang LaSalle MENA, and I understand that your company has recently, yesterday, come out with a trend study in the region.
Yes, thank you. What we're looking for in our organization is not so much what's going to happen next week, but in the coming years, in order to be able to give our clients and partners prescient advice of how to move forward.
Longer-term trends.
Long-term trends. Where we see what's happened in the last 10 years is really the end of what we refer to as a transformational decade. This is where we didn't talk so much about real estate projects, but in fact about building countries and building cities.
And also known as the go-go years.
Of course.
The boom time and all of that.
Right. And so what we are starting to see now is something that's more about a transition to a more mature market. So we talk about stability and maturity, the focus on delivery, and the necessity to rebuild trust and confidence. For people who've been in the market for less than 10 years, they've only known one dimension, which is up. And of course, real estate is a cyclical business. Our trends primarily focus on the necessity to look at opportunities to induce demand. Many parts of this region, the supply story has largely been written. Now, for example, in Dubai's case, we have the infrastructure for 3 million people, but we currently have 1.5 million. So it's opportunities to actually grow the population in a more long-term and sustainable way. We also, I think, talking about opportunities to improve trust and confidence and transparency. These are the things that give people an interest in coming in the longer term, but also to invest in a market that's still new in many respects. With the additional supply coming on, we see more of a shift from a market favoring the landlord to one favoring a tenant, and opportunities to provide incentives and inducements to be able to actually attract the right tenant.
Do you think that the absence of a thorough legal regime in various areas is still a problem for this stability which you're talking about?
I think the answer is an obvious yes. The reality is if we wait until a perfect legal system comes into play, we'll be waiting a very long time. What we're starting to see now is that it's not just the government, not just the legalistic environment, but also the corporates themselves to be proactive and to look at bringing in best of breed either regulation or business practice. So as government introduces the right legislation, it's also about the private sector and the government sectors to, in fact, be proactive. We know in the UAE context that Dubai has a fair level of regulation and legislation now. Abu Dhabi actually has quite a strong urban planning council and centralized planning effort. So in many respects, the opportunity to take the best of both breeds obviously can lead to some benefits. The key thing here is that there's a realization today that real estate is complex. It is not necessarily a short-term answer to all the investors' questions. But at the same time, over time, real estate plays a very, very important role in all major investors' portfolios. It isn't necessarily the tradable asset that people had thought in the past, but nowadays real estate is becoming more like what it is in the rest of the world.
One of the things I think which expatriates find peculiar, perhaps in the UAE, is this great division between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, because of course they are an hour, or depending how fast you drive, an hour and 15 or something apart. And in most countries that would just be a neighboring city which was part of the country and so on. Do you see the two cities drawing closer, even to the extent, for example, of marketing properties in both cities at the same time, doing marketing tourism to both cities? Do you see that happening?
Sure. I think the report we just issued yesterday was actually a report on the UAE real estate market. We see a lot of synergies, and that what happens in one place can be complemented in the other. Please recognize, though, is that there's healthy competition. That's frankly how, during the transformational decade, that's how many of these countries became much bigger and broader than they were. Towns became cities in the last 10 years. I think the key thing is that you cannot be good at everything. And how do you be good at the things you're good at and ensure that the people who are next to you complement you in that way? Let's be very clear that important transitions have taken place in the course of the last 12 months. It's been a lot to digest, not just from an investor's point of view, but also from a regulator's point of view as well. And if anything, we see what we hear from government is one country. We're starting to see a lot more synergy and complementarity coming into the marketplace.